What's up, All-Inners, and welcome to another episode of the All-In Podcast, a podcast for casual leaguers. I am the League Dad, and as always, I'm joined by the boys. We got Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair, and we are here once again. Quarterfinals is finished. Really hype, a lot of action. Just, man, so many things going on that, where to begin, because there was just, we had almost upsets. We did have upsets. We had just plays that were crazy, good games all around. But, how you guys doing? Give me your thoughts on just overall gameplay. How you feeling about Worlds right now at this point? I know it's starting to wind down, it makes it more exciting, but I'm also getting sadder because I know it's getting close to the end. So, but let me know your thoughts. How do you guys feel right now?
Feel pretty hyped that, quarterfinals was actually really sick to watch. I think a lot of people were expecting a stomp from TES Fnatic, and that one was not the stomp.
Yeah.
And maybe a closer game between G2 and Gen G, and that was the stomp. So it's kind of like no one expected as much of results. So that was exciting.
I wonder if that speaks again to, we could debate this all day, but I wonder if that speaks to, series play. Or because in group stages we had round robins and now we have a series, and maybe people were able to prepare a little bit better after seeing some gameplay. But for whatever reason, there were a couple of just expectations that went in opposite directions, which always makes for exciting storylines, makes for exciting play. So I was excited to see it. But either way, it was just good games all around. What about you guys, Alistair, Kevin? Any initial impressions after what happened this past weekend?
I mean, I was surprised that Suning JDG was as stompy, I guess. It was a lot. I think we all expect to be closer than that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm gonna look right now at what we predicted here. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure I said 3-1 JDG.
Right? Yes, you did. Yep, 3-1 JDG. In fact, only one person predicted Suning, and that was your boy Mitchell right there. Mitchell, the almost predicted. Even last time you were talking about Fnatic quite a bit. Actually, you did have Fnatic win.
3-2.
It was close though, but they didn't win. But you would have been on the money. So I mean, kudos to you for seeing some of those things. But what about you, Kevin? Any thoughts on the games?
Yeah, so big thoughts. I mean, Suning it wasn't a fluke. Their group was probably harder than it looked in context, because G2 looks so strong. So Suning beating JDG, that's a huge deal. Them getting into this meta and knowing what to do is impressive, especially after losing game one. After losing game one, usually a lot of people's mentals can go boom, especially in an elimination match and you're mostly rookies at Worlds. Top first Fnatic, that kept me up so long. I was supposed to meet with my friends that day, and after I'm like, can we push it back? The team I thought was gonna 3-0 is not 3-0ing. In fact, I don't know how this is gonna go. I will say my big takeaway, and I wanted to get into this a bit afterward, is we mentioned a little bit of LPL teams don't look as strong, but honestly my biggest takeaway was the Korean teams don't look strong at all. If you think about it, there's one Korean team that's good, and it's Damwon. Yeah. And how good are they if all they're doing is beating up second place to a lot of people is Gen G? And if you don't think second place Gen G, that's fine. It's DRX. Still not that good.
Either way.
They just look like crap, honestly. It was one of the worst quarterfinals of all time. I thought quarterfinals was great, but then I remember there was 4 of them, not 3 of them.
Yeah.
So honestly, that was the worst match I've ever seen, and it was first or second seed in at Worlds, at least in recent memory. And then Gen G getting 3-0 body was also just okay, so Korea has one team, and they only looked amazing relative to these teams in the domestic. Honestly, they looked really good in groups, so I can't say anything against that. But looking at JDG's power level and the fact that they went 1-1 against them, shoot. Does G2 have a chance? I actually switched my pick on to G2, so I was oh god.
That's funny.
They're making me go on this roller coaster again.
It's crazy because, G2 was kind of known as the Korean team killer, and then some people were saying, oh yeah, but it was only because who did they have a big win streak. They killed somebody. I forget.
SKT.
Yeah, SKT.
SKT.
5-1
Over and
against
over.
SKT.
Yeah,
or
so
5,
they were
5-2
like-
or something like that.
Yeah, so they
crazy.
were like, are they the Korean team killer or just the SKT killer? And this kind of adds more merit to, well, maybe they're a Korean team killer with their showing against Gen G. I mean, it's again, I don't really know at this point. All I know is that it was a pretty good beatdown by G2. And I know, Alistair, you don't like seeing G2 win because of the fans, but I'm excited because
That's not true.
I
enjoy watching them win, but I also don't hate watching them lose.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
So it's
you're
the same thing with Cloud9 and
indifferent, I
SKT.
guess.
I don't hate them winning.
I'm just trying to cause some drama between you and the
Fair enough.
G2 fans.
Fair enough.
But you know what? I will say that because NA's not in it, I gotta go for a Western team, man. And like G2's our last hope. I was rooting for Fnatic too, even though I didn't predict them. I was like, oh boy, this would be crazy, right? To see two European teams kind of move forward. I would have been excited to see that. But before we recap all of that exciting stuff, I know we kind of led you guys on listening right now and probably want to hear us get into it. But before that, we got some NA news because we do cover the LCS primarily. And so this just happened. Licorice is now gone from C9 and Fudge is being promoted from Academy, as well as Rainover getting the coaching spot for Reaper. So that is pretty big considering that C9, again, last year was so dominant during Spring Split, dominant during the first half of Summer Split, and then just completely collapsed and didn't even make it to Worlds. And so now we're seeing changes. And so I would love to get your guys' initial knee-jerk overreactions to this, or just reactions to this move by C9. What do you think it does for them on the on paper?
Well, Fudge is going to be an interesting player because he's only been on Academy. He has zero actual LCS games.
Mm-hmm.
So he could come in and excuse me, he can come in and like really dominate and be really good, or he could choke. We don't know what players like rookies can do until you try them out. So I mean, C9 could just like power up. Everyone's saying they lost the offseason already, like on Twitter and stuff. That happens every year, right? C9 lost the offseason, you lost Jensen, you lost Sneaky, blah, blah, blah. And they always do pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be too worried. But I think the biggest worry for Cloud9 should be less of like how well Fudge does, because I think he will do well, is more so like where Licorice goes and if that team gets way better, because
it's true, because whatever happens, it's like, not only are you releasing a player, but you're allowing that player to go to one of your competition teams. And so if he goes to a team that was already pretty good and then makes them into like a contender for like the title, I mean, that could be a big difference, because they'll probably have to run up against them, and I'm referring to C9 will probably have to run up against them at some point. So for sure, not only are they letting him go, but they're giving him to, one of their competition. So what about you guys, Alistair, Kevin?
I mean, you guys might know more about this than I would, but I'm wondering if something happened behind the scenes, because they didn't they tweet out saying that they were keeping the same roster and then now they're dropping Licorice? So did maybe something happened internally?
Well, something did happen.
Possibility.
Fudge became a resident because the OCE disbanded. So he's like a resident now.
Licorice was also a resident, was he not?
Yeah, he is, but Fudge wasn't. So there wasn't the option to think about it. And then now they have the option to think about it. They decided they can sell Licorice off for a big price. Fudge is very cheap. He's a rookie. I mean, Cloud9 does this all the time. They sell expensive players off. Impact, Jensen, contracts.
True. That is true.
Svenskeren. They always do this. They take an MVP player or a very good player at the role, and they're like, we could keep him, but we could just get someone cheaper. And they typically do better. It's either, at worst, it's a side grade, and it's typically an upgrade in their organization history, with the exception of maybe like Zazel.
Contract Smoothie.
Smoothie for Zazel was a downgrade, but they just had a good year.
Sneaky for Spen.
But anyways, what I think about it is like, I think it's definitely the OPL thing, with them being all the OPL players like King and Shermfire and stuff being counted as regular residents. That's a huge deal.
Kevin, let me interrupt you real quick, just for our listeners who might not know what's happened with OCE. So OCE has been disbanded. So it is no longer a league of its own. And if you guys know, NA had started this kind of movement of bringing in OCE players, and they were counted as imports. Well, now that OCE has been disbanded, what they're doing is they're now saying that any player from the OCE region is not counted as an import now. So that's kind of a way for them to still have a path to make it into pro in NA. Unfortunately, it does suck for a lot of the players that aren't. They don't have their region. They don't have their own league anymore. But that's what we're talking about as far as Fudge, who was an OCE resident, is now no longer considered an import, which gave C9 the option to move him to the starting lineup without taking up an import slot. So just wanted to clarify that. But go ahead. You were saying, Kevin?
So, and so with that in mind, like, I'm pretty sure that Licorice probably came into contract when his contract's ended, and he was like, okay, I want to get paid like a reasonably high amount for what I'm valued as a player. C9 was like, well, Fudge is going to be a lot cheaper. He's also been proven to be very good in academy. And then the other thing is Licorice did not have a good last split.
Yeah.
So even though, yeah, he's probably going to bounce back the second he moves off this team. Like, you do have that, like, it's not like prime Licorice. This isn't like the Sin Scare move where you're like, oh, how's C9 going to do? Like, Licorice did not look like a top 2 top laner. He was at best like 3rd or 4th in that playoffs, if anything. And that's partially because NA tops aren't very good. So it's not as scary of a move as it seems, and I actually don't know what Licorice's value is because I don't know if his form recovered or not. Like, there are players who are extremely good for a year and then they just fall off the map like Arrow or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think it is.
I hope that Licorice comes back.
I mean, I think it is hard to, it is a lot of work to stay relevant and stay, on top of the game, because this is a game that constantly changes, and it's a matter of not just being good at this particular time, but how well do you adapt? How well can you learn new champions, a new style around the team, depending on, whether it's more scaling and team fight focus, whether it's more early game skirmish focus. Like, as a player, you have, your value is tied to that. And sometimes we're seeing players like that just can't adapt. Viper is a case in point, with that, with Riven being his one
Double
trick.
lift.
Yeah, double lift. Yes, exactly. Like, we saw that very quickly with the Senna when Senna was out, and this ADC kind of supportive ADC came out. He wasn't really
Saw that
adapting
group
to
stage,
it.
baby.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's very bad. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. I think that's really good. What do you guys think about Rainover coming in as coach? I mean, he was an assistant, so I don't think it's going to be a huge jump for him to be starting coach here. But I don't know if this actually is going to. I mean, again, like, I feel like when you change a coach, don't you want something like different? Like, I feel like when NBA changes coaches, it's because the direction the coach was going was not working, and so they bring in a coach that has a different style or a different philosophy into how to attack the game. And if Rainover, unless he has a totally different philosophy as Reaper did, I'm wondering if this is such a good move, or maybe they should have got somebody with a new direction. But what do you guys think about your predictions of Rainover from what very little we know so far?
I think Cloud9's going to be more. I think the team's probably just going to be less dictated by Rainover, like how it was dictated by Reaper. I think that's a bit of a given. I do think their playstyle might change a bit, just due to the fact that Rainover is a jungler and Reaper's a mid laner. So they might have a different way of looking at the game.
True.
So they might play slightly different, is a possibility. That's my take, pretty much.
Cool. Yeah.
Reaper was a top laner, I think, for SKT.
I thought he was mid laner, was he not?
I thought he was a support, so we're all wrong.
Wow. Okay. So none of us know, but he was not a jungler. Do we know that for sure? 100%
Yeah, I don't think
confirm
he was
that.
a
Okay,
jungler.
so either way, he's bringing in a different perspective because he was not a jungler. We just don't know what other. He was a top laner. Okay,
but he was a mid laner as last season, which is what you're thinking.
Okay,
he was a
so
top
there you
laner
go.
for like 2 or 3 years when he was considered legendary, and he was the mid laner for Jin Air Falcons after jungling for them for one split as well.
He did jungle. Okay.
Yep, he jungled
he
and
was
he mid.
top
but
laner 5 splits, jungle 2 splits,
then
mid one
once.
split.
So I guess
Okay.
he could do everything but bot lane, and bot
there
lane
you
was
go.
never C9's focal.
So I was the only wrong one,
There
actually.
you go. Actually, yeah. Wow.
Anyway,
Anyways.
The point is, like, I think Rainover, yeah, they probably want a little bit more hands-off coach. I mean, Rainover was known for being a pathing genius back in his day, and his ability to read the map kind of reminds me of, like, I guess the modern equivalent would be like SOFM. You're like, well, how is this man here? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So it could probably help their jungle IQ a bit, considering Blabber is a little bit low on the jungle IQ, but very good on the mechanics.
There it is. There. Had to throw in a blabber
Hey,
job. No, that's
my
cool.
opinion. Yeah, I'm just saying, I'll give it every time. But
Hey, man, I like it. Take it.
the memes aside, to some extent, like it's probably a good move for them. Reaper being out of the picture means they're probably gonna be less consistent in the beginning. Like I really don't think it's gonna have like that. They've been with him what 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they probably won't be as scary at first, but there's gonna be a lot more room for this team to be exciting now. Compared to before. No, again, I don't know. Are they removing Reaper, or are
Yeah,
they?
he already left.
Yeah, he's gone.
He left like a month ago, dude.
Yeah.
No, I meant like he left from the role. I just didn't know if he left like the team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's like he tweeted out like applications, be like, "Yo, can I join another team? I'll be a coach, analyst, anything, stuff like that."
Yeah.
Got him.
So he might join another roster. That's a big deal too.
That's also
TSN.
C9's giving up a lot
No.
of talent that has kept them relevant for a while. So
yeah.
now we gotta rely on Niski Sven.
Yeah. Oh boy, our
Yikes.
legendary imports.
I mean, we still have Blabber and Vulcan on that team, so it's still gonna be a good team.
I think something that's interesting about Rainover is that it's kind of funny how I feel like Rainover and Blabber had like similar sort of careers in that but very shortened for Blabber, right? Rainover was like so freaking dominant at the beginning of his career, and then he was on like a 10th place CLG roster for like a year and a half. Just completely plummeted, was just absolutely looking terrible for like 2 years almost, or I think it was TL maybe. And
IMT, he was on as well.
IMT, okay. Well, no, it wasn't on IMT. IMT was where he was. That's when they were dumpstering, not when he was
good.
playing.
Yeah.
bad.
No,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
playing
no,
bad.
my bad.
And Blabber kind of had the same thing. You know, he just started off like the best jungler NA's ever seen. Oh my god. Into actually being one of the worst junglers in the league. Like at bottom 5, actually in playoffs and stuff. So it's kind of interesting that they're putting them together. I hope, they don't do like a weird choking thing where Blabber just looks really good again and then just starts playing terribly all of a sudden.
Maybe Rainover will be like, "This is what happened to me. Don't do the same thing," or something like that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Or he just coaches them into oblivion. It's a career suicide. So I mean, I think it's gonna be. I don't know. It will be interesting to see which direction they go. If it kind of stays more of the same, or if they do take a different path. Honestly, whatever they were doing late last split was not working. So I think a shakeup is good.
Yeah, that's true and all. Rainover has a long career of choking in important moments. That's all I'm gonna say. That's my first impression of Rainover.
Yeah.
Really, really great high highs, and then chokes when it matters. So.
That's not a good reputation to have, honestly.
No, it's not.
I don't care how. I don't care how good you are in the regular season. It doesn't matter when you need to win when it counts. Like those are the games that people remember.
Wait, they won Europe and had a perfect season.
That was the beginning of his career, but I really felt like
I wouldn't call that choking when it matters. I just said that he's just bad in NA.
No, I think he means at Worlds.
Well, okay, Worlds
Okay,
2015.
He did definitely choke at Worlds. That's true.
He really choked in the series against Rocks. I think like him and Hooney were the worst players that lost in that series.
That's true.
And then when they got to NA on Immortals, it felt like they dumpstered regular season, and him and Hooney both choked really massively in playoffs in spring and in fall too when they got out fall early. Yeah.
I mean,
and then
choking
CLG
against Smeb and Peanut in their prime is not really that weird, but I agree.
I mean, it was also Hooney and Rainover in their prime too.
They were strong.
So it's like,
they were strong too. Kevin doesn't believe they were on the same level.
And I remember when Rainover, I think, was on Team Liquid. They started the season off like 5 or 6-0, and then it was just they still were winning early games, and Rainover was just constantly turbo winning the mid and late game.
That is very, very fresh in my mind.
Well, let's hope that doesn't
Stuff of
happen on
nightmares.
C9. We'll just have to wait and see. But one more
Still
thing I
play
just
him.
wanted
Yeah, it's
to
fun.
point out is that maybe with Fudge, I know C9 were saying that it's a contract dump, save some money, get Fudge cheap. But look, this is another rookie that we get to test out. Yes, he technically is from OCE, but he's now an NA resident according to the rules now. And so this might be more NA talent, right? We got Blabber, hopefully, who doesn't crash and continues to maybe move forward. Spica, obviously we got FBI, who's now one of ours,
Resident.
no longer an import.
Big deal.
Tactical.
It's a hot commodity.
Yeah, tactical.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping that this is the beginning of maybe a trend of organizations saying, look, if we're really going to make NA good in about 3 or 4 years, like it's time to start doing the dirty work, meaning, it might look ugly the first year or two with getting all these like new talent, no-namers, but let them play, let them, develop, because I think we've come to this before that it doesn't seem to work if we just keep paying these old veterans who, yes, can do well here because they know our region, but internationally, it's obvious that they're just on a much lower level than everyone else out there. So that's what I'm hoping.
So let's talk about where do we think Licorice is going to go. I think that's the really interesting question, because there are, as Kevin said, there are a lot of really bad top laners in the league, right?
Yes.
Adding Fudge and Licorice into the system makes it so that the overall level is going to be better. Like we get to get rid of some really crap top laners, right? We're going to get rid of Viper. We're going to get rid of I don't know, like Alorm is still in there, right? And I think he's still signed, but he's definitely one of the weaker top laners.
Yeah.
Soaz is going to be gone.
Soaz is gone.
I mean, Solo, he did really well domestically, but then started to fall off in the playoffs and at Worlds and stuff. Impact's contract is up, so where do we think Licorice is going to go?
Yeah. It's a real good
realistically, point. Realistically, he only goes to competitive teams. Like he has a lot of buy, he has a lot of sway, a lot of leverage, and he's not going to want to join like an Immortals, at least in their current form, right? So realistically, I would think he goes to Liquid or FlyQuest or Golden Guardians.
Yeah,
because DB is still very decent. Like he's good enough for sure.
Yeah.
And Licorice in his current form, you can't say he's an upgrade, right? If Liquid doesn't keep Impact, then they should get him, and if they don't get him, it would be the biggest upgrade for a competitive team. It would be the biggest upgrade for Golden Guardians. Because
man, that would be awesome. That would be.
They just don't have a top lane.
Haunter
does.
They need new solo lanes.
Yes, they need new solo lanes, which they can get. Or he goes to FlyQuest, because FlyQuest has pretty much no holes elsewhere. No major holes other than Turtle too. But
yeah.
I mean, Turtle played pretty well in groups, I would say. But
he did fine. But
Solo is definitely interesting because I feel like he's like reverse Impact, right? He does really well domestically.
Reverse Impact.
And then he just does terrible at Worlds.
Again, that's not a good reputation. Like, I would rather be the guy who sucks in regular season and is good in playoffs. But yeah,
it's not the best, but hey, at least he made it. Licorice didn't even make it, so.
That's true.
Yeah. And also, I remember Solo against Cloud9. Solo was playing Shen into GP and still destroying games in teamfights. So it's kind of like, is Licorice even an upgrade over Solo? I'd like to think so, yes, but maybe even not.
But
you know?
who knows?
Yeah, that's why I think he should go to Golden Guardians.
Golden Guardians, Evil Geniuses, maybe.
Now, do you think
Huni?
that?
No, I don't think they did.
Oh well, no.
Puma.
The whole bet on Huni was because he was resident this split.
But he's really bad, guys. Like, he's really bad.
I don't want to see any more chances given to Huni. I mean, again, this is more of this like, why are we paying these players? Like, it's not good for the region. Like, give me
2.3 million.
Shoot, give me a cheap rookie who wants it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's true. I was reading on Reddit again. The best place for all league news is Reddit, of course. But people were saying it's like, instead of just making, like, how many academy players are there that have been academy players for so long? Just because there's all these big names that, who, people watch them because of their namesake, but maybe aren't necessarily the best just because nobody else has had a chance. And, you know, like it's hard to tell, but I think this season or this split, if anything, has been an eye opener. And like I said, I hope that organizations, for the sake of making NA a decent region internationally, will take a hard look at this as a lesson and say, okay, maybe it is time we switch up our strategy, and you know, let's try some of these rookies, these academy players, and give them a shot. But with that said, since we were talking about old C9 players, do you guys think Sneaky makes a return? Or is he done? Do you think he's done?
He said he wants to make a return, and I mean, he could come back in the scene and be better than most ADCs, I think. So, yeah.
But
I think if he wants to make a return, he could. It's about if he wants it, right? If he wants to make a return and he's not getting offers from top teams, it's up to him to take offers from lower teams. If he doesn't want it, that's his thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, he could get an offer on probably any of the bottom 7 teams, but it's whether he wants to take it or not. So I think it's totally up to him. But he could replace a lot of ADCs, I feel like, in the bottom teams.
I mean, he definitely has a skill set, I think. Yeah, I think that's a good point, though. It's whether or not he wants, because I don't think at this point, like you said, like the top tier teams, I think they're good with their ADCs. You know what I mean?
They're not like TSM, Cloud9, FlyQuest, Golden Guardians. They're not getting rid of their ADCs. It's all the other ones. So it is probably not Dignitas either, honestly.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Yeah, the other 5 will probably consider getting rid of their. Like, I wouldn't mind EG Sneaky. Like, Bang is great and all, but I'm over it. He's probably expensive as hell in an import.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to Academy, I mean, how long has Dignitas been having Froggen burn a hole in their pocket to sit in Academy and do nothing, right? Like, when you could have some new one who's actually gonna play the game to play the game.
Again, it's like the meme of NA being the retirement home for all these like pros, even from other regions. Like, it's just
NA's just washed up worlds.
I'm tired of it, honestly, as an NA fan. Like, I want to see new talent, people who are actually hungry, who are good, who have a lot of time to grow, and that's it. Like, let's just move on from there, because I don't want to see any more veterans just losing worlds over and over again. But okay, let's move on to this past quarterfinals. Finally getting into it. Give me your most exciting matchup that you want to talk about first. What's the most exciting matchup for you guys? And we'll see if, you know, we have different ones, but anybody wants to jump in there, you feel free to.
Damwon Gaming, DRX. No, I'm just kidding. That was
okay. 3-0. I mean, if that was your most exciting one, then it's all you. But
no, I mean, it's obviously
sure
TES.
Same answer.
Yeah, TES Fnatic. Like, if you're not saying that one, you're trolling. So.
Well, I mean, I would say the Suning JD Gaming is pretty good. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's start with Mitchell then, since he's pretty adamant about that. And Kevin, I'll get you next because it seems like you have something else in mind. So Mitchell, you wanted to say TES versus Fnatic, which I can agree that's a very exciting series. Again, top esports supposed to be the favorites to win, but Fnatic came out guns blazing, and I loved it. So go ahead and give me your thoughts on that. What'd you think of overall? I mean, it's a shame that Fnatic ended up losing, but man, they really deserve a lot of credit. I was very excited and proud of what they did.
Yeah, it was really, really exciting to watch, like, the clear underdogs, Fnatic. Like, I think everybody in the entire world, like, there's a lot of people who predicted JDG over Suning, but I think every single person predicted TES over Fnatic, right? Like, there wasn't anybody who actually thought it was going to be close. Most people were saying 3-0. Some were saying 3-1. I'm like, yeah, they could get a game, right?
Yeah,
but to actually go 5 games, and not just 5 games, but like 3 really close games where game 4, I felt like Fnatic should have won, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like, they messed up uncharacteristically. It was really heartbreaking to watch, but of course very exciting. Mm-hmm. I think something to really highlight is the bot lane for TES is a massive, massive like hole that we didn't think was a hole before. Jackie Love, I love how he keeps arcane shifting forwards.
Yes.
He single-handedly loses game 1 by arcane shifting forwards over and over again. And then you go to game 5 and he's still doing it. Like, he doesn't care. It's game 5. He arcane shifts forward. He still dies. Okay, he does get one crazy juke outplay on self-made, but it's like, what if you just didn't arcane shift forward, man? What would have happened?
Yeah.
Would you have, I don't know, not just lost the game by yourself for a fight?
Yeah.
I don't know what was up with that. Yu Yanja also, I think, very clear. He's like first time quarterfinals, big nerves, big jitters. 0-5 on Tom Kench at 14 minutes.
Yeah, that was
game
bad.
2, I think. Yeah, so I don't want to talk the entire time about just harping on the bot lane, but that's what it felt like to me.
You got to say, though, like, I mean, if you look at top esports, definitely big mid gap there with Knight. Knight played pretty amazing. Like, I think it was harder to tell, obviously, in the games they were losing. But overall, when you compare their numbers, I mean, compared to Nemesis, he had a 7.8 KDA compared to Nemesis's 3.1. The CS per
Nemesis
minute.
Played Galio, though.
That's true, but what I'm saying is that Knight is
they picked it willingly.
Yeah, he picked it willingly. I mean, and that's a style, but like his DPM was 510 compared to Nemesis 405. Like I know some it has to do with the champs as well, but Knight really played and stepped up. I mean, out of all of his team, he was the one that they were relying on, and I feel like he stepped up and played through. So
I actually wholeheartedly disagree. I think Knight played okay, but it really was Karsa felt like the big difference. Like Karsa was actually like, I mean, Selfmade was probably Fnatic's best player, and I think like Karsa, if he wasn't Karsa, like Selfmade would have taken over the entire game, like all of the entire series. Like I really think like Karsa coming back in the last 3 games, like single-handedly brought them back game 4 and absolutely dominated the early game in game 3 and 5 on Lee Sin. So
that's true. He did have really good Lee Sin plays.
Like Karsa just camped. Like, yeah, sure, Knight did really, really well once he got fed, but Karsa camped the crap out of the early game for Knight.
He made the plays, that he needed to. Yeah,
he ganked Nemesis over and over again in game 5 and game 3.
How frustrating is that? Yeah. Okay, I can give you that. Yeah, good point. What about you guys? What do you think, Kevin, Alistair?
I don't have anything else to say about it. I agree with Mitchell. I think it was Karsa more than Knight.
Okay.
Yeah, so in terms of player diff, definitely agree with Mitchell. I mean, Karsa just turned it on. Like, he played the 0% win rate Lee Sin this tournament and made it look like one of the most broken picks.
God, he is so good with that champion. Holy.
Like, Selfmade was definitely the superstar. Like, he's the superstar player of that team, and he still looked outclassed at times. It was like literally an arms race at some point where Selfmade was like, was he playing
Graves,
and he was really fed, and then like Nidalee was equally fed, and I was like, well, if you're choosing between the two, Graves is a lot easier to execute. I think Graves has got the advantage here. And then Karsa just like proceeds to die only once the whole game, or like literally diving in and just like executing people. Even in plays that they lost, he would just like clean up somebody out of a mechanical outplay or just like a brain outplay, and I was like, good God. It was definitely a Karsa diff. I do think Knight is just a significantly better mid laner than Nemesis. Did he show it in the series? At times, yes. At times, no. Like, he did go 4-0 in the first game very early on Zoe, and then he just got shut down because his team was getting completely clapped. Like, not to forget that. What I gotta say about that series, the reason why that was the most exciting series of the tournament for me in the quarterfinals for the first 2 games. And then it looked like Fnatic had a super great amount of prep and strategy, and then they got to game 3. Like, I didn't think we would get this far.
Yeah.
What it looked like. Because, like, once TS started just, like, even using a base amount of logic, like, oh, Yuyenja went 0-7 in lane, I guess we'll put him on Karma as real bot, and there's literally no way they can lose. And then they didn't lose. They just smacked, except for Game 4. Game 4, they was actually very close. But they just kind of got outclassed for the next 3 games, which is why, to me, it was like, it went from this super exciting, like, roller coaster ride to, like, just a really painful, slow bleeding death from Fnatic. Like, even in Game 4, where I knew Fnatic was up, like, 2K, and they should have won that game, in my opinion. Like, in my mind, though, I was like, Top is a better team. They'll find a way. Fnatic already lost their mental. That's why it kind of sucked for me. The most exciting match for me was either Sunny JDG or G2 Genji, and G2 Genji only because, yeah, it was a 3-0, but if you watch those games, there were times where like they were just like wiping each other back and forth and back and forth up to like 30, 40 kills. And like narratively, it's more exciting in the sense that like, hey, G2 could very reasonably beat Dawon, like on a good day. Like they have to all show up, and I think they're not favored, but G2 has a very good chance. Before this, I thought G2 was like 3-1 Gen G. It wouldn't look that great, and then they would lose to Dawon. So that's exciting for me narratively. But the Suning JDG game had like a lot of sick plays too. I'm just so annoyed by how the last 3 games played out. Because like of course I wanted the top to win, like as I predicted, but like the way they did it, I was like, ugh. I just felt icky the whole time, especially that game 5. Like,
Well,
Jackie Love plays that fine line where he's like, "Am I engaging for the team?" I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But like,
exactly.
it worked because they were so far ahead. But like, honestly, he also lost games off that. So I was like, bro, what? It looked like they were just disrespecting Fnatic, and Fnatic couldn't do anything about it, which was really annoying to watch. Like, it's cool, but it's annoying.
It looked like Jackie Love was like pissed at his coach or something. Like the man, like. He entered game 1, and his coach was like, "Okay, Jackie Love, we're putting you on Senna, so you can't arcane shift forward." And he was like, "You want to watch my support die 5 times?" Like,
this is how you watched my support die 5 times.
Put me on Ezreal, and I'm arcane shifting forward. I don't care. I thought those. I will say it felt like Fnatic had really good prep, and Top Esports kind of like didn't show up as much for the first 2 games, and then game 3 was like, I think the real depressing one. Because Fnatic's draft, it felt like their preparation just was non-existent. They picked Kha'Zix jungle into like Sion, Karma, Lee Sin, Orianna. I'm like,
you're not getting anybody.
That's 4 shields, man. You were last picking Kha'Zix. And they had Vel'Koz too with Glacial. And I was like, oh, man, they are grasping for straws with this draft. Game 4, I felt like they, like, as you were saying, you thought it was like, Fnatic should have won, but Top Esports would like find a way. It was like really just one. It was like Selfmade and Hylissang, I think, were the 2 best players for Fnatic, and they were playing really, really well. The playmakers. I also felt like they were the reasons why they lost the series, though. They were the reasons why they're winning them and losing them. Because it was game 4. I think Fnatic was like 5-0, 2K up, and Hylissang and Galio, they all started playing the bot lane. Selfmade's doing like Grump on the other side of the map. And, like, TS just has numbers advantage in the bot lane. Like, it was a very simple math equation. Like, you guys just didn't have your jungler there. That's why you lost. And then the game just was over from there. It was around, like, 15, 17 minutes. And that, to me, was just, like, that's just such a simple Selfmade just started AFK farming for, like, literally a minute and a half. And he forgot to go bot lane again. And they started to fight. So, I don't know. It was depressing. It was very depressing because
I think you guys hit
such a simple mistake.
I think you guys really hit the head on the nail there, and especially what you said, Kevin, is that game 1, the freaking singed top. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, like either they're trolling or they did some prep work, or they can, it's like one of those games you can steal. Like if you could steal a game by doing something that's totally surprising, it worked really well. But again, it's like Fnatic has always been a team that's good at prep, right? And it felt like they did prep really well for games 1 and 2, and then they were just like, oh shoot, well, like how do we close this out?
Big Kha'Zix.
Yeah, and so again, like I feel like I'm just agreeing with everything you said. That's exactly what it looked like. It looked like they were really prepared, and then they weren't, and then it was like, oh crap, like what do we do to close this out? And I happened to watch the video of like the comms of Top Esports like during this whole thing, and they were just cool as a cucumber. Like even through, they were like, okay guys, 3 best of ones. They just kept saying it, after they won the first one, like 2 more best of ones, and again, like it is, maybe just skill level wise, when it comes down to it, they're just a better team. But again, mad props to Fnatic for playing to their strengths of preparation, maybe stealing a game or 2, giving themselves a real shot to win. And I think at the end of the day, the better team just won, and you can't fault them for that. But
yeah, I think I said this in the last podcast, and I just want to highlight it. This is why I predicted Fnatic to win. It was because I knew they were going to come in better prepared. And Top Esports also, I think, has like a weak early game and a pretty shaky macro game, but they just have like better players and they have better team fighting. And honestly, I think their late game is really good. Like when they come in clutch moments, but like their early mid game first 20 minutes is like, it's kind of just random, I feel like. And they just have better players. So that's pretty much what we saw, I feel like, is that they're just kind of playing randomly.
Yeah.
They rolled the dice 3 out of 2. So
playing with
Yeah.
fire, that team, they were playing with fire, kind of getting close to that line. But
They
yeah,
keep it interesting, but oh god.
yeah, I know. Gosh,
yeah,
okay.
they're very random. They just do some
Very.
random ass crap. Like
Yeah.
they fight for no reason. Like no
Oh,
thought ahead.
yes.
C person, I go in. Sometimes
you
they're
gotta
like,
love it.
you just see they're just randomly farming in a side lane while they're fighting too. It's like they're just so random. Like,
Yeah,
but they're really
man.
good. So
Yeah. Well, speaking of Chinese teams, Suning JD Gaming, again, JD Gaming was another favorite to possibly win. And they won Spring Split. But again, the whole thing was that they hadn't played Suning since, I don't know when, it was a long time ago since they last played them. So it was still going to be kind of a new thing because meta is totally different from the last time they played. And sure enough, this was one of those games where it's an upset, but I think maybe there were more people that could have seen this coming, like Suning possibly winning, and they did. And so, let me get your thoughts on this. I mean, because JD Gaming to me looked really bad, but Suning also looked really really good. SOFM, man, like what a monster. So let me get your thoughts on this game. I mean, I love Bin too. Like just that team right there is just starting to grow on me. But let me get your thoughts on that series.
I felt it was a very different Suning than what we saw in group stage for the most part. Like when we watched the last day of it, even in the games they beat G2, just especially Angel and Huanfeng, right?
Yeah.
The AD carry?
Huangfen, yeah.
They didn't look like they were there, and then they played well, and good for them.
Yeah. Wanfeng, I can tell you this. Wanfeng, don't give him Jin, because that dude is a monster on Jin, man. Holy crap. I mean, it was just amazing to see him play.
his Jin was really really insane. I mean, like I had like zero confidence issues. Like he did not care.
Felt like he didn't miss either. Like
He
I
didn't.
feel like he had everything.
He didn't miss his ultis. His ultis were like heat-seeking ultis. He missed a couple of funny little W's here and there, but that's okay.
That's okay.
It's a hard skill shot to hit. I think like I don't know JDG's. This is something that I noticed throughout the entire playoffs was JDG's priority on Lilia.
Yeah,
I think
they
really
picked up-
screwed them.
Yes.
Like Lilia really fell off. I think after group stage, everybody's kind of like, we don't want to play Lilia anymore. It had 0 precedence in top esports versus Fnatic. It got banned twice in G2 versus Gen G. Oh no, Dan Munger's DRX, and it got played once in the G2 game. So it's like it saw 3 games of play in the other series, and it was like contested every single game by JDG, and it really screwed them. That pick is, I guess, not as good as we thought it was, and it really is
I
just
told
kind of
y'all.
bad.
Well, I remember I was always questioning it. Like I understand, like she brings a lot of good AOE, CC and stuff like that, and can do a lot of things. But for me, like seeing her in play-ins, I was like, I just don't see the value really, like for what she could potentially bring to what she's actually bringing. There was a big disconnect for me. So, that's the only reason why I was questioning it back then. And maybe after them actually playing it in groups, maybe they're also starting to see the same thing, like what she can potentially do versus what she's actually able to do. Maybe there's a gap there, and that's why she's kind of falling off as far as but yeah, they picked her 3 out of the 4 games, and I don't know.
And Kanavi's supposed to be their star player.
Yeah.
Kanavi was supposed to be the guy that's like, I mean, he was the reason why they were like so competitive with top esports all year. Like his Kindred is really, really good, but they didn't pick him. They didn't pick Kindred as much as I think they should have. And we saw Kindred be a really good pick in the Fnatic
Kindred's
series.
been
So
doing good,
I think that was surprising how, like, there's always like the Dade Awards and stuff. And pre-Worlds, Kanavi was considered like, I think next to Canyon, like the best jungler in the world. And then SOFM was talked about a lot, but not considered like the best until we saw group stage. Kanavi might be the Dade Award winner this year. Like going from best jungler to having a terrible read on the meta, playing 3 games of Lilia.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see his Lee Sin. I know his Lee Sin's really good. I would have liked to see his, Kindred. Where's the Nidalee? Where's the Graves? So, yeah.
If it's not him, it's Bjergsen. So I mean, take your pick. Because like at least he got out of groups and did okay when in their series against whatchamacallit. he did good enough in their series against Canyon, against Dianwang. But like,
Yeah.
Bjergsen was the weakest 6-0 Lucian you'll ever see.
Oh gosh,
but Bjergsen was from NA, and
Yes.
Kanavi was on considerably the second first seed of LPL.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
that's true. That's true.
yeah.
That's true. I agree. I think it probably, if I haven't thought about that hard, I think it's Kanavi. That's all. If
Yeah.
we had to give a Dade award.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun fact that Juan Fang had a 14 KDA, highest of all ADCs. I mean, he played pretty well. We talked about his Jhin already. Again, I don't know what they were thinking on their. You know, after a while, you gotta wonder, like, maybe we should make him play a different champion. But either way, he did really good, and he averaged 10 CS a minute, and for the whole series, like he was just a farming
really
monster.
insane. I'm pretty sure Jhin is Loken's best champion, so that's why they had so much priority on it. It was also a steal away, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, Loken's a clear weak point on that team in terms of like everyone's actually a very good player besides him and Yagao at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think like a really big deal is just like, I don't know, Zoom was on Renekton like all of his games, and it's like it's so hard to do anything on a losing team as Renekton.
Yeah.
Would have liked to see him like have priority on. I guess they banned Camille because they're afraid of it getting first pick, but like maybe they should have just let Bin take Camille and play Jax. You know, I don't know. I like Zoom is a great player, and I felt like he was holding it together a lot. Especially when GP started level 1 with the Sheen. That was just depressing.
Yeah,
but
I remember that.
I think JDG's biggest weakness was their meta read. Like, they're playing too much Renekton, Lilia. They weren't taking away the Jhin. I don't know. They had Yagao on Galio TF and stuff, and that was great and all, but I don't know.
Yeah,
there wasn't
I think
like
you're
there's
right.
no one carrying the games.
Yeah. I think you're right. That's exactly what it felt like. They were just kind of behind. And weren't really up to speed with everybody else. Is there any other series that you want to talk about before we go to predictions? So there's Damwon, which was a 3-0, Damwon against Dragon X, and then there's G2 against Gen G, which is also 3-0. Did you guys want to touch on any of that before we go to predictions? You guys good to go? I mean, it was pretty clear-cut stomps, but...
We saw the rise of Silas in both the G2 series as well as... there was a lot of prio from Knight, although he did not play as well as Caps in his series. So, but I was like, after he won that last game, I think game 5 against Fnatic, I think it was on Silas. I was like, oh, I understand why you picked Silas. And then I watched Caps play. I was like, oh, I understand why it's picked ban.
Yeah,
I see.
Oh, Caps on that Silas though was whew.
Yeah,
That's a
BDD.
broken champion.
If I expected anything from DRX, BDD probably should have gotten a Dade award too for being such an amazing player who has literally done nothing this world.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's.
True.
I don't know if he's ever shown up at Worlds because he was part of the legendary King Zone, Dragon X, or whatever they were.
He's never shown up.
And he's never shown up.
Such a god domestically, though. It's
Yes.
kind of crazy how good he was domestically on Dragon X or King Zone or whatever.
Yeah, like he was like considered literally the next Faker, right? Like, or at least of that tier of players. And then like at Worlds, like he has never shown up. So I guess he doesn't get a Dade award just because I don't expect anything anymore. I'm like, oh, okay.
Sounds like Bjergsen
Caps is just
and
better.
double. That's our Bjergsen and double right there.
We barely expect anything to double at.
We don't expect any more.
domestic now, so it's getting kind of desperate.
That's bad. That sucks.
Yeah, Caps was really, really impressive. Like, by far the best player on G2. I think maybe the best performing, maybe the biggest mid gap of all the quarterfinals, honestly. Probably the biggest mid gap we saw was from Caps. It felt like, I don't know, it felt like he was single-handedly, like, what was it, the crazy Caps highlight where, like, he got the Ash Arrow, he killed the Nidalee at, like, 100 HP, then he killed the Twisted Fate, 100 HP, lived against the Camille, and then killed the, like, that was just a crazy highlight reel, and I was just like, if it wasn't Caps, Gen G might just win that team fight and maybe get Baron and win the game. Like, that was pretty insane, the Caps difference. I don't know. I'm not too convinced with G2 through that series, simply because, like, Yanko's steal feels pretty bad, honestly. Like, he was in the right places, but, like, he cannot land spears.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yanko's mechanics on Nidalee, specifically Nidalee, and sometimes Graves, too, is, like, very worrying for me.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with you.
Canyon is, like, a different beast. Like, Canyon is really, really insane.
Well, my only other, person of discussion as far as mid is Showmaker. Like Showmaker to me is playing also amazing. Him and Canyon combined are freaking doing amazing things. Again, I don't know if it's because the competition is weaker in DRX, that they play, but to me, those are that's the only other mid that I think can maybe be in that conversation with the Caps. But as far as impact and the highlights and, just single-handedly making you, just go, oh my gosh, like that definitely was Caps for those plays. All right, cool. Anything else on this past week before we move on? Good? All right, let's go to predictions. I'm getting very sad and excited at the same time because we're coming up on the semifinals, which means it's going to be even closer, hopefully. Good competition, good games, but that means we're also getting closer to the end of league for this year. But Saturday, first up, we got Damwon against G2. Now, this is a matchup I want to see. Again, another Korean team that G2 is going up against, so it kind of continues that narrative of, are they the Korean team killers? But Damwon, though, has been playing really well, and they play, I don't know, very different, I think, and I just am excited to see how it goes stylistically. But let me get your thoughts on previewing this matchup.
It's gonna be a Diffie in the Jiffy. If Damwon Gaming wins, that's what everybody's gonna be saying. That's all. That's like the main thing that sticks out to me is how much of a gap there is in the jungle, and how much of a gap there won't be in the mid lane. Like, Showmaker. I don't know. I think Caps is probably better than Showmaker. If I'm just being honest, I feel like, I don't know. Showmaker is pretty good, but I'm just like. I thought he was going to be like just Knight and Showmaker were just going to absolutely decimate the competition.
We didn't see that. Yeah, we haven't seen
We didn't see that. No, I think Showmaker is better than Knight so far, but Caps has actually been the player that I feel like he actually just decimates people by himself.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's like going to be a battle of like who's going to make the mistake. Is it Jankos or is it Showmaker? I think Barrel is also can be questionable at times. He has really insane gauges and also just kind of instant. And I really like Mickey. I don't know. This is a tough one. I'm just throwing out random thoughts right now.
No. I mean, I think it really is because there's a lot of strengths and weaknesses here. I think for what you said though, like that's what, because personally as a fan, I want G2 to win. But that jungle difference, man, like you're right. Like Canyon has been playing really well this tournament. And that's what worries me. Like I think everywhere else, I think they play pretty, they're pretty much on par, if maybe not slightly better in some areas. What about stylistically, do you think? Like, do you think, because, G2 is really good at team fights, moving around. I think I've been seeing on Reddit, or at least a lot of the Chinese forums and stuff like that, saying that they'll have a tough time, or it's stylistically against Chinese teams, because Chinese teams like to skirmish a lot early game, whereas G2 kind of focuses more on team fight coordination and that sort of thing, and they feel like G2 would get more destroyed early on and not be able to get to a point where they could actually compete or be competitive during team fight stages. So what do you think stylistically between these two teams it's going to look like, and who do you think has an advantage here, or is there an advantage?
I actually tend to disagree with that sentiment. I think G2 is much more split style. They tend to split the map a bit more than look for team fights. They always give up like the first dragons is what I noticed. And trade it for Fnatic does the same thing where they trade early dragons for gold on their top laner.
Mm-hmm.
I think G2 splits a lot more. Like they played like Camille, Shen, and stuff. G2, I mean, they had Twisted Fate and Silas, right?
Yeah.
So Caps is like in the side lane a lot and being like, I can contest anybody 1v1, and then if someone comes to contest me, then I TP in or flank. I think Damwon Gaming is the much better team fight team, if I'm being honest. Like, I think Damwon Gaming, I mean, I think their top laner, like Naguri, he's going to do some crazy Kennen Lulu stuff in team fights.
Yeah.
Which is just so weird because he's the only one playing Kennen and Lulu. It's just so freaking random. He's single-handedly getting Lulu top nerfed because people started playing Lulu top in solo queue. So yeah, I think stylistically it's going to be who splits the map better and who can force the fight. So very comp reliant. Like if Danwon Gaming can get their hands on a Twisted Fate Galio and start a fight on bigger numbers, then G2 is gonna have a hard time. But if G2 can get side lane pressure, like they have a Camille splitting or a
I
Silas
see that.
splitting, and they have pressure, like, I think if Naguri gets forced on an Ornn or a tank or something, it's actually gonna be really bad for them. Like I think Naguri needs like a champion that can either like contest in the 1v1 and not just like get outscaled by Camille or a Silas or something. It's gonna be a big deal. Yeah.
Okay.
So
do you guys, you other guys have any thoughts on stylistics or just the overall matchup before we predict the games?
I don't really have anything on style, but I'm still on the idea that it's not the better player. It's what team has the bigger anchor, like the heavier anchor, and that's kind of where I'm worried about G2 because I feel like I look at Damwon and I think it's probably going to be Beryl as their weakest link, but G2 I think it's either Yankos or Mickey, and
I think it's
because I feel
Yankos.
like Mickey,
yeah.
and I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good way to look at it, though, because, again, like we were saying, like I think like most of the matchups seem pretty even. It could go either way on any given day, but I do think there's the biggest gap is in that jungle. I mean, maybe support, but yeah, for sure, I think it's definitely there in the jungle. What about you, Kevin?
I'm not convinced Korea's that good still because of how weak JDG was, and I'm like, wait, JDG was like that in this meta, right? Like I think JDG is still a very good team, but they had a terrible meta read, and that's how close.
Be good in this meta too.
What is that?
JDG should be good in this meta. Like Navi's their star player, and it's
they
like
should
jungle
be,
focused.
but they played it awfully. So like,
I don't understand.
I wish they were better, but they
Same.
objectively did not play well. So like I'm not convinced Dawnwon's good. That as good as I think they are. I thought they were because like yeah, G2 has their weaknesses and like the biggest gap is their jungle, right? Yeah, like that to me, like Mickey and Beryl are very similar. Like they kind of coin flip sometimes. And I'm like, wow, what a god player, and I'm like, oh god, what a player. And but like Caps is playing on like all cylinders firing, and like Showmaker has not needed to show up against pretty much anybody so far. Like who Yagao not on Zoe is pretty bad.
Yep.
Who else did he have to play against? Like there weren't any like real skill chests.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Chovy. It's just Chovy and Yagao really. The other mid laners were
that's true.
Marson.
And like that's I mean like my point is like I'm not convinced Korea's good.
Yeah.
Like I was listening, so this is partially influenced by I think Face Check it was the one with Dom and Degon. I forget which one it is.
Yeah.
But like they were just talking about like how long are we gonna continue to rate these teams even like remotely highly if their region hasn't shown shit for this long?
It's true.
3 years. Yep.
A good point.
Like it's weird to me that I think Dawnwon's so scary when they haven't beaten anyone but JDG, and they went 1-1 with JDG, and true they stomped DRX, which I guess is still like at least they stomped, but I just don't know where to rate them. Like they feel like that team that like comes out of this time I think that's their best region just based off of results, right? And if that's the case, they came out of that and that's the only region they've shown their skill in. And they've lost a mid-season cup. They've lost to G2 before with just one player swapped out. And this year it's one more year of Perks actually having half a year of ADC experience.
Yeah.
Like I just don't think it's as one-sided as some people think it is, and I'm willing to say it's a 3-2.
Yeah, I don't think it's for me. I don't think it's one-sided at all. That's where I feel like it's going to be hard to predict, right? I think this is going to be a really fun matchup to see, especially because it's two different regions. Like Suning and Top Esports, but they're both from China, so it's like this is what I want to see. Like I want to see.
It might honestly the Suning G2 or Suning Top might be the more exciting match.
Sure.
Objectively to watch, but like. For all the marbles, like the G2 one is the one I'm looking to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah, narratively.
Yeah.
Like last year, SKT looked like a super team. They came in, there was the narrative. I mean, obviously Faker, we don't need to talk about, but like Clit is a god jungler, like he's so good, and then like he's so much better than Yankos, and then Yankos like did fine in that series.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel there was a jungle gap at all. Cannon hasn't jungle gapped anybody of note for a very long time. He didn't jungle gap Yankos last year. He didn't jungle gap. I think it was against Top Eastward. No, I'm talking about mid-season. They were against
Oh,
top
okay.
Easters. So Karsa played better than him in 5 months ago or whatever.
Mhm.
And he jungle gap Piosek, who's probably the best jungle he had to play against because Clit is
And
just
Kanavi. Yep.
Oh
Kanavi
yeah,
and
he
Groups.
did. He did do better than Kanavi. You're correct.
He did way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But Kanavi had never looked good this world. So again,
it's true.
it's not his fault that his opponents were bad, but the
Yeah.
problem is how good does that make him, right?
Exactly.
Because like we can't knock him points for just literally beating people worse than him. But we can't.
But I mean, you say the same thing for Yankos. Yankos has gotten jungle gapped by SOFM in all 3 of their games, and then he was playing against Clid, and it looked like he was not that great against Clid. So there's also the same points that you used for Canyon for
I thought he
Yankos.
was fine against Clid. Really? Maybe
I
I
mean,
didn't watch the jungle the same way. But like,
I mean, he was fine. That's all I'm saying. He was fine. Like, he was in the right places, missing Nidalee spears. Like, that's how I felt. And like, it's like such basic Nidalee mechanics too. You wait for the stun. If you don't have faith in your spears, then
Yeah,
you
you
wait
wait.
for your team to stun somebody, and then you throw a spear. He was just throwing random spears, man. And I'm like, that is a very inexperienced Nidalee player.
Hmm.
that's
So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to game predictions then, because I think all of us are feeling like this could be really close, or it should be really
Yeah.
close. So I'm pretty much 3-2. And at this point, I'm gonna say G2 because one, I want them to win, but also, if anything, even if Yankos isn't the better jungler overall, maybe stylistically, or maybe because they've played before and he's done well, maybe that gives him confidence. So I'm gonna say that maybe that possible gap isn't gonna be there, and I'm gonna bank on Caps being the freaking man that he is, going nuts.
Caps is probably mechanically speaking, if we're talking about caps. We're talking about like what we rate these players. As Showmaker should be a better player, but like honestly, in this tournament, Caps
That's what I'm
has shown
saying.
more, and he
Yeah.
had to show more.
He had
be
to,
fair.
Yeah.
So
He's
he's
had to
warmed
show
up.
more.
He's warmed up. He's ready to go. But again, like, has Showmaker he's got great stats, but he should, because he hasn't been playing against that great of
Showmaker
players.
hasn't clutched out any wins or anything. Like, I feel like Caps has literally clutched out games that G2 was about to lose because of other reasons.
Because of other reasons. A good way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, so it's hard to say, right? Like, do you give Showmaker credit for doing less and winning and harder and easier to win games?
Yeah.
Or Caps showing up in harder to win games? Because then, Caps is showing up against
That's true.
also Suning, and Suning has been unexpectedly good. If like Suning beats top and G2 wins and they meet in the finals, Group A was the best group,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
TL is the third best team in the world.
Best team in the world.
Hey, I'll take that. That's a win
It's getting
for
closer
NA.
and closer to that world line.
We're
Like,
getting to it, man.
it seemed unlikely, but they looked good. I mean,
Yeah.
worst case, TL was a top 5 team.
There we go.
Hey, I mean, looking at TL's trajectory, like if they, let's say you just randomly put TL and replace them with like DRX or Gen G or something and just see how they look like, I feel like we could have seen some impressive stuff from TL. No
Yes.
joke.
Yeah.
Because
I
they
agree.
looked really good in their last day of groups.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so,
I'm going. Fuck yeah. Fuck.
I know
Sorry,
it's hard,
Thursday.
ain't it?
I'm going.
It's hard.
I said I was predicting Danwon to win the entire tournament, but
You did,
I
yes.
have been swayed, and my pick'ems have not been updated, so I'm going against my pick'ems. I get best of both worlds. I either get the pick'em wins or G2 wins, and it's best of the West. Last Western team.
You're a winner either way.
You're
I'm a winner either way. I'm going G2 3-2 as well.
Let's go.
I do
Oh.
think they are the better team. I just think that like they're less consistent. So they have 5 games to flip heads 3 times.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like Damwon is so consistent, right? They consistently get their jungler ahead and they move their top and mid to jump to team fights, and like Barrel makes the big engage. Like it happens every game, it feels like. And I don't know, G2 is very unexpected.
Yeah.
That's usually the bane of Korean teams. They do some weird
G2
shit.
hasn't lost to Koreans in a while,
Mhm.
as far as I remember.
They haven't lost a single best of 5 to Koreans since this roster has been here. So 2018, yeah. Or 2019, sorry, 2019.
I'll start giving Korea credit the second they do an impressive win in a best of 5 series, because they
Yeah.
look really good in group stage, and then holy moly, their second and third stage don't look like teams.
Yeah.
Good God.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, what do you got, Kevin?
3-2 G2. I mean, like,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
want to vote for G2. You know, I'm not a big fan of G2, but like,
Yeah.
they look good.
They do.
And it was against a third seed team from Korea, so you know, who cares?
Yeah.
But I thought I saw more like exciting proactiveness from them, and that's only because Dawon didn't need to do that. It's like it's not a knock against Dawon; they just didn't need to. And so,
DRX
like,
just rolled over and died.
I'm just willing to bet on the things I've seen versus the things that should be there but aren't necessarily there. Like I was very big on JDG, and JDG every time JDG falls, I'm like, well, they'll show up.
Yeah.
And like until I see it, I cannot
You
believe.
can't. It's like Blabber. Like you couldn't see it, and then he won MVP. So.
And then he still,
and then he crashed.
Again, they were wrong.
Yeah,
And
they were wrong.
He still-
They were wrong.
Well, actually, no, they were right. Honestly, like
They were right
objectively,
for
they were right
Spring Split.
based off of the stuff you saw. He was MVP up until the end, which is weird that they
Okay.
still counted like the second half to his MVP. But whatever, we'll
Yeah.
not get into that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So, Alistair, you and I don't know if you have your buddy the coin there. What's your predictions here? Oh, he's got it. He's got the coin. By the way, let
Coin's
me
already
just,
voted.
hold on. Let me just real quickly see if the coin did anything right. No. So coin predicted DRX 3-2. That was wrong.
Yeah, we should go everybody's predictions.
Okay,
just so
all
I can
right,
feel
real
good.
quickly. Okay, so real quick.
Fast
all right.
predictions. I want to
So
feel good.
I predicted DWG 3-1. Mitchell, you got 3-0, correct. 3-1 Kevin, 3-1 Alistair, 3-1
Yeah,
Coin
get
said
wrecked, guys.
3-2.
Just saying.
All right, Suning JDG. The only one that got this right was Mitchell.
Thank
Suning,
you.
but you had
Thank you.
3-2. But still.
I predicted the right team to win. Who cares?
Yeah, that's better than all of us.
Yeah.
Top Esports versus Fnatic. Me, Kevin, and Alistair all said Top Esports, but we were all wrong about the games because it was 3-2. Mitchell, you were almost right. It was 3-2, but you voted for Fnatic, or you predicted Fnatic, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Coin was wrong because it said Fnatic 3-1, and then Genji G2.
It was almost a Fnatic 3-1. Oh my god. Game 4? They won that?
That's true.
Damn.
So G2, let's see. We all predicted. No. Alistair said Gen G, but me, Mitchell, and Kevin all predicted G2. We got the games wrong though.
I got 3-0,
You were closest.
right?
No,
I got
you
3-1.
had 3-1, but you were close. So
3-1.
you were the closest.
Yeah. Then you guys did 3-2?
Coin.
Okay.
So Coin got nothing right. You dumb Coin.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. We have brains, Coin. What do you have?
Smarter than a
Finally,
coin.
We're
redemption
so-
against inanimate objects.
We're smarter than you, Coin.
Well, the coin
Okay.
has a 3-0 G2.
Oh shit!
Hey, I'm down. I'm sorry
Big
we
brain.
insulted you, Coin.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Coin.
It would be a different kind of hype because I think everybody would be laughing. They would be like, "That was a little boring."
Korea's donezo. Korea worse than NA.
Yeah,
Man.
I think everyone would be like, "Okay, Korea is very clearly the third region and not better than
That's
EU."
funny. Okay. Well, what do you say? What does Alistair say then on the prediction?
That'd be so funny.
He doesn't want to
I
say
don't know what I
G2.
would-
He doesn't want to say G2.
No, but here's no,
out.
that's not true. I'm trying to weigh my opportunities here because would I rather watch G2 lose or would I rather hope that G2 gets 3-0'd again in finals?
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
pretty
more
funny meme.
That is actually
like,
okay.
that's a pretty funny meme. Caps gets 3-0'd in
Because
finals.
it's going to be a
3
Chinese team they play if
Yeah.
they
Yep.
win. So what would be more entertaining to me? is where I'm going with this.
I think we would have a really sad laughing fest if
Yeah.
G2 loses again in the finals. Like
Gosh.
3-0 stomp.
3 years in a row,
gotta
LEC
end
gets
sometime,
3-0'd by a
right?
Chinese team.
Oh man.
It's not just LEC. It's Caps. It's literally Caps. Every
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
technically it
it
is Caps.
Man.
if it was like G2 twice and Caps wasn't on, I was like, oh, it's a G2. No, it's Caps. He
It's
looks
Caps.
amazing till the
He was
finals.
on Fnatic, and then he was on G2, and he gets 3-0'd in the finals.
It's like a monkey paw. Like
That's
I wish
sad
I could
face
always
right
make
there.
it to the finals. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
granted.
I mean, hey,
Like I
we
gotta
take
win
those.
sometime, right?
Yeah.
Hey, can we bring it Caps to NA real quick? We can get our first World Finals real
Oh
quick.
my god.
Hey, I'd take it. All
Hey,
right.
I get 0-3 in the finals every day of the week. Is NA?
Finals is the finals, man.
Exactly.
Big deal.
Is it so much to ask to like make it out of groups and maybe get to semis?
so
Maybe
much to ask to
we did it
make
once.
out of
We did it once.
To semis though? I want to make it to semis.
We made it
did,
to
we
semis
did.
once.
Oh, we
We
did?
did C9.
Okay.
Remember
Oh, that's
C9?
right.
They
Yeah,
3-0'd
yeah.
a Freak of Freaks.
Okay, yes,
When
you're
a Freak
right.
of Freaks
played-
had the best top laner in the world, Keen or whatever his name was.
Yep, Keen.
Who
they played.
definitely did not play that well.
Okay.
There was also Kramer from LGD in their bot lane.
Yeah.
Kramer and Tucson, I think. And
Okay.
then
Yeah, and even against that, TSM still couldn't find a way.
see.
Alistair, so what's your pick here, man? He's trying to pick.
You know what?
Do it.
I'll go devil's advocate. I'll go 3-2. Damn one.
There it is.
That
Alrighty.
should be the least controversial
I'll do it.
pick of the night.
I'll
but-
stick to my guns. Hopefully I'm wrong and G2 wins the whole thing. I think that would be interesting. So I'm just gonna keep voting against them and watch it happen.
There you go.
Okay, I like it.
I like
I
it.
like
I'm
it.
okay with that. If you not predicting G2 gets them to keep winning, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
So-
I'm okay with that.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to the final matchup: Suning versus Top Esports, two LPL teams. Should be a banger, if anything. Should be exciting. But will Suning pull another upset and beat Top Esports? That's the question. For me, I feel like Suning is hitting their stride. Like, honestly, they're looking friggin' good. Top Esports, again, had to reverse sweep Fnatic to get here. And they haven't looked as good as we thought they probably should be looking. So that's what makes it interesting. So for me, I have Suning 3-2. That's right. I'm gonna hope.
Let's
I'm
go.
thinking Suning's got it, man. First of all, I'm really growing like Bin, Wanfang, and shoot, who was I thinking of? Oh, SOFM. Yeah, they're growing on me, man. So that's my pick there.
It's hard to say because it really felt like Karsa just dragged Jaculev's screaming body. He's like,
Yeah.
Jaculev was a toddler screaming, "I want to arcane shift forward, daddy!" And Karsa was like, "No, I'm just gonna win this game. No more.
Oh,
Just
jeez.
go back to bot lane, Jaculev."
All right.
Oh God, I think Top Esports is going to show up, right? I think Top Esports is going to underestimate Fnatic, and they're going to underestimate FlyQuest, and they're just going to kind of play brains off. But I mean, they know how good Suning is.
Yeah,
they
they
came
play,
in.
Yeah, they're in the
They
region.
played against each other in playoffs. They're the region. They respect Suning, right?
Yeah.
They respected JDG, that's for sure. So hard, man, because I love Suning, and I want to predict Suning. So I'm gonna go last. All right, I go.
You
next.
know, you're
Someone
starting
else
to
could
convince me. I probably shouldn't have gone first. Now I'm like getting swayed, but
Yeah, someone predicts.
I'm sticking with my Suning. Now you're starting to make me less confident about my pick because that's true.
I just want to hear what other people are gonna say.
All right, let's go. All right, who wants to go next? Alistair, do you want to go?
Well, I'll get the coin out of the way.
All right,
Coin
what's the coin
is
got?
3-1 top.
Ooh,
Okay.
I think that's a lot of people in the world who can predict that one.
3-1 though.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like analysts and stuff, I don't watch the pre-shows,
Yeah.
but I think if we did watch the pre-shows,
Then-
a lot of people would predict 3-1
3-1.
Top Esports. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now who wants to go? That the coin has
I'll
gone.
go because I have stuff I still want to say.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, like, I like Suning's playstyle a lot this Worlds. And, like, this is honestly what I expected from Top itself. Like, if you just watch the regular season, as someone who watches the LPL so much, like, it's really... There's no way I'm voting for Suning, unfortunately. Like, I want them to win, and if they do, I'm still pretty happy, because, like, they're a good representative in the finals. But, like, Top Esports, like, as dumb as it sounds, like, they probably did underestimate their opponents all the way up to here.
Yep.
Like, it seems illogical, because we know NA doesn't have teams that can even, like, dream to underestimate on their way up. But, like... They very clearly, like, the second they like hunch down a bit and they're like, huh, maybe we should just like pick stuff we're good at instead of Jarvan in game 2 of Worlds quarters, they like started smacking. And honestly, like, I think that it's also like, it's just a really bad matchup. It's like OMG versus Royal in season 3. It was like OMG was probably the better team against SKT in the finals, but Royal was a better matchup. And
Yeah.
Royal beat OMG that year, and that was really disappointing. I get the same feeling with this one. Like, if Suning was on the other side of bracket and G2 was against Suning, like, I'm like, it's close. I think this is a 3-1 or 3-2. I am going to say that Top Esports gets their shit together, and they know Suning so well. These teams play like
Yeah, that's
4 to 6 games against each other in the regular season alone.
that's
every
where I'm getting
split.
less confident about my Suning pick. But yeah,
And they've
makes sense.
and Top hasn't just done it once; they did it twice. They topped over Suning. Well, Suning didn't have their full roster, but like they topped over Suning twice.
Yeah.
In the regular season, of course. there's just like a lot of mental there and a lot of history that, yeah, I mean, JDG did it too. So you can make that argument, but like, I think top playstyle wise, like, what's like,
If you guys are out there listening, Kevin just had a big sneeze.
Yes.
I muted for
He
all the
muted.
people
That was
who wear
good timing.
headphones.
There you go.
No, where's my ASMR? You should have.
I know the ASMR there.
That's for off stream.
How considerate.
Late night stream.
After dark.
Yeah.
The only fans of All In podcast.
Oh
Kevin's
God, no,
OnlyFans.
no. That is not the path I wanted.
I pay to see that.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Anyway, my
Anyways.
point is, like, as a straight up matchup though, like this is also a really good one though for top, because like Yaga's not a god mid laner,
Mhm.
Angel's not a god mid laner, but like Knight can be. Like he hasn't shown it that much to be real, but like he can be. There are a lot of things matchup wise across the board where you're like, oh, it's kind of rough. And the Suning's bot lane, like, I think they're strong, but I don't know if they're gonna punish in laning phase the way that Fnatic like tried to punish. I think that they're stronger late game than the Fnatic bot lane, but their early game isn't necessarily as aggressive. So with all that being said, yeah, I think it's 3-1 top esports. I
Okay.
wish that Suning could get to shine elsewhere. Like, I want a Suning Donwon matchup, for example. Like, I want to see what
Yeah.
their aggression does against a
That'd
team
be
that's
cool.
that coordinated and that smart. And I want to see if they can make them feel tilted. But
Yeah, man. I wish. God, what if we did like just a round robin of top 8 instead? 'Cause
I
I wish
know,
I wanted
right?
to see all of these teams. I wish that we could see like if Damwon loses to G2. I wish we could have seen Damwon top. That's literally what everybody wanted to see this year,
Yeah.
and we might not get to see it, which
Yep.
is so sad because they're running into the Korean killers, and
they have no
Yeah.
chance.
yeah, they have no chance.
Oh gosh.
Honestly,
Okay.
Because, like-
it's just unlucky.
Yeah,
Because we were saying it last podcast, there's a bit of like a rock paper scissors thing going where
for sure.
I would say Damwon Gaming has a better chance against top than G2 does, even though G2 might beat Damwon Gaming. It's stylistically,
Yeah.
which is so sad because
point.
Damwon Gaming versus top would be so hype, like
I know.
actually insane. I
Oh.
am going. Yeah, I'm gonna go top esports, man. I love my boys.
Who you-
Suning.
who-
I was the only one who predicted them too. Just
I
remember that,
know.
guys.
Just
If
remember
Suning
that.
does win, I predicted him
Hell
last
no.
time.
I'm the one predicting them now. I'm gonna take that victory.
Yeah, you can take that. I'll take second place. I'll take
Okay.
like half the prize.
So what are you
like a
going?
third of the
3-2
prize.
or 3-1? You
I'm going 3-2 top.
Okay, 3-2.
Yeah.
all right,
Doing
Alistair? What do
3-2
you got?
top.
He wants
know
to
what?
say.
I'm gonna back you up, and I'm gonna go Suning.
There
Yeah.
we go.
I really want to
Let's
see
go.
Damwon top, but I after watching Bin build full crit Gangplank, I want to see him win.
Yes, that's what I'm talking
I-
If he
about.
wins
I
this
loved
tournament,
watching
there
that.
better be a GP skin with his name on it. Because
Oh
good
my
God,
gosh, yes.
nobody I've ever seen, even Solk, is dumb enough to go full crit and make it work. Like they were doing a breakdown on the EU podcast about like why he should have just kept splitting top, but he just TP'd bot and it
Oh
worked.
yeah, I saw that.
And I was just like, I look back in the game, like, oh, they're pretty much right. Like, he obviously knew he could do it, or else why would he do it? But like, objectively speaking, that was probably not the play.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
love it. I love that they would do it. Like,
Yeah.
he
there's
just
so
coin flipped.
I'm so sick of our teams just like being scared of the flip. They
That's
won't be.
what
They
I'm
won't do
saying.
it. Or they can't execute if they do it. They might be not scared enough, depending on who you ask.
True.
I think the flip. I mean, when Suning flipped in that specific game in the tiebreaker versus G2, that was like one of those like this is a very unnecessary flip. Like actually, they just like get the inhib for free, or they get dragon for free in that tiebreaker. But whatever, he made the highlight play.
Yeah.
Okay, if Bin wins and Suning wins the whole thing, I hope the skin is if GP eats an orange and throws it in the trash bin. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be tight.
Yeah, he throws it
Okay.
right in the bin, or like he
I'm with
he
that.
points at his teammates.
I
Throws
like
it
I'm
that.
on
trash.
board with that. I'm on board with that.
You
You
need to
get
put that on
two
Twitter.
Gangplank
Get
skins
your
in a row.
timestamp out there.
Yeah,
Heck yeah. Well, yeah, we'll highlight that if that
All right,
happens.
yeah. We'll,
Alistair,
send
you
it to Riot.
didn't say the games though. You said Suning, but what's your game prediction?
I'll go 3-2.
Okay.
You're too Suning.
Yeah. That's
God,
what,
watch
I
it-
mean,
watch-
because I think
watch-
if they do win, it will be a very tough battle. I'm not saying like
Suning 3-0 biggest statement of the century.
Get
Holy
about
crap.
it, man. That would be nuts. Okay,
That'd be
well,
insane.
is there anything else you guys want to touch on? I mean, we've done it all. We've talked about NA. We've recapped the last week's games, and we've given our predictions for this semifinals. I'm ready for it. And also, I'm not ready for it because I don't want this Worlds to end. But any last thoughts for you guys?
It's okay. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, just really briefly, I'll say subtly speaking, like, even though I want to say that I think Worlds has gotten so much more exciting, even though the dominance has just kind of switched over to a different region, like, I was so sick of LCK versus LCK, and not because they're LCK, but just because of the way they, not because they're Koreans, but because of the
way they
play
play,
style.
yeah.
Like, because when I saw that Daewon and DRX, I'm like, I was just like traumatized by some of the Worlds matchups we had seen in the past, where I was just like, wow, this is boring. Like, this is beautiful macro, but this is boring.
Yeah.
I think subtly speaking, like we can actually be somewhat excited about matchups like Suning versus like Suning and JDG are teams no one's ever heard of until now, and like they can be exciting and they can be good matchups even if they weren't exciting before and they were exciting after the fact. So I'm happy for that. With the exception, I guess SKT versus Rox was really exciting way back when. That was a great match. But besides that, like it was so boring back in the day, and I'm so glad that we have matchups where like we can get hyped over, even though they're not our region. Like our region's not involved. Our region's not even in the conversation anymore.
No,
but
we're not.
At least we can cheer for G2 to be good, Fnatic to be like really spicy, and the other teams to be like somewhat like exciting, even if you don't care about the narratives. You start caring. Like, who the fuck knew who Bin was before this?
Yeah, right.
I knew SOFM, but most people didn't. And it's like because like he just never did anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huan Feng. Holy shit.
No one knew who Huan Feng was, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're getting some hype matchups, but it like took a while, right? I think group stage was definitely a bit of a downer compared to many group stages where there weren't a lot of hype matchups. There were a lot of like battle for first places, but not a lot of like, battles for like Group A was exciting because Team Liquid almost made it in. But then the rest of the groups were decided within a game or two on week 2. So we talked about it last podcast.
The format.
The format needs fixing.
Yeah, format needs fixing. Hey, we'll say it again.
We'll say it again. Format should be updated. I also will say, I think as a nice closing off is that League is never over because once the championship is done, we head into preseason, and then it's free agency. And that always gets me excited. Just watching the headlines on Reddit or Twitter and being like, Licorice just got signed to SKT, like.
Then we can overreact.
We can overreact.
There's one veteran I wouldn't mind if he retired here, and that's Faker. But if Faker came to NA, which I know would have never happened, but I'm just saying.
Never happened.
I'm tired. I don't want any more import like retirement homes, in NA, with the exception of Faker. I'll take Faker any day. So Faker, I know you're listening to this. Come on over.
I'm down to purge NA. Just get rid of everybody.
Get rid of them all, man.
Rookies
I'm ready. The NA Exodus.
Yeah.
Or the Exodus to retirement.
Please. I'm with it, man. I am tired. I want new talent. Well, okay. So I think that about wraps it up. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you again to our awesome co-hosts, Kevin, Alistair, Mitchell, always sharing their wise insights. But until next time, guys, enjoy the games. Enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.